it's the technology, the media, information domain. These are all domains of warfare. We're in the age of complexity. And so if I could impress nothing else on my followers, it's that. It's all warfare. It's all ongoing, open, everyone against everyone warfare, even in the information space.
No, you made some very important points, and I'll make a quick personal story. Even when I was accused of human trafficking and locked up and all this bullshit, the American right never really disliked me in any regard. They all defended me. Even Ben Shapiro said that Andrew is correct about the things he says, but he has some of the wrong solutions, but he's by and large correct about the problems with society. The whole American right supported me. When I first got out of jail, there was nobody on the American right who disliked me. Until October 8th, when I told Piers Morgan that Israel was conducting a genocide. And then the entire American right turned on me instantly, saying that I'm a degenerate because I have sex with more than one girl, and that I'm a terrible person, and I'm a pimp, and all these things. These were accounts that were defending me the day before, and that was organized inside of Telegram groups that I've had access to, and they were paid money to all instantly slander me and turn on me, so you're completely correct. You're also completely correct in saying this is being picked up by Russian intelligence. Yeah, it was. I was fighting in China when the George Floyd riots were going on. And before my fight, I was watching the Chinese news, and the Chinese news was saying that, once again, America is in turmoil as all of its unhappy citizens riot against their oppressors. The black people hate the white people, and everybody hates the government equally, and everybody's dying. Did China instigate the George Floyd riots? I don't know. Or perhaps they just saw some division and jumped on it because that's what foreign intel agencies do. I don't think Russia told Candace to do it, and I know you lightly alluded to a theory that somehow her and I were getting paid by Russia or something. I can tell you from personal experience that's absolutely not the case. So yeah, they jumped on it, but I don't think that takes away any of the validity of what she's doing. You're right in saying that absolutely everything is run by the intel agencies. That is correct. We're in a permanent and endless state of never-ending war, and America and Europe as a whole, their only chance of competing against China is to ally, especially China and Russia now that they're so close. So I do believe that there has to be some degree in the European continent, some degree of interest. And I just think that perhaps, once again, I'm talking about feels and my instant thoughts when I saw your takedown of the Brigitte series. I just thought, is that really genuine from Nick, or is that an attack? And once again, this is a personal decision. This is me speaking from my personality. I wasn't the one who was attacked by them like you were, but I have been attacked by a lot of people who I still currently talk to, work with, or promote because I think it's better for the larger fight. So I agree with everything you're saying. I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think we're better as a team if we can all manage to work together. I also think there's a degree of, you know, Hollywood and arguments and fighting. All these things are very interesting to the Anon who never has to put his face anywhere. You're never based enough for the Anon account who has nothing to risk and nothing to lose. And these people are trying to instigate the endless wars, and they like that we all argue because for them it's entertaining. And it's also great for them to come and write on my posts or Ian Carroll's posts or anyone's posts and say, you mentioned the Jews 99 times, but you didn't mention them 100 times, so you're a Jew. It's like, okay, well, you have nothing to lose, and you also, nobody listens to you, and nothing you say actually matters. And if you're going to be up here, like you well, the importance of nuance, you understand very well the importance of picking your battles. You understand very well the importance of being funny. The only reason you're not in jail is because you're funny. And the only reason I'm not in jail is because I'm funny. And a lot of these people who want to say the same things we say can't be funny. And humor is a shield. And a lot of people don't understand that. They're not smart enough to discern that we get away with doing what we do because we're funny with it. And there's a whole lot of things happening. And my point by and large for the Groypers is I believe in the movement. It's fantastic. I think it's fantastic we all work together. I just highlighted that I didn't think it was genuine when you attacked the Brigitte thing. But
we have defused the enemy on Alpha.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's been a minute. I was fixing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. The lag is gone. Apologize for that. I know you guys wanted to talk this stuff out, so I just wanted to make sure, you know, let y'all get this stuff on this stuff. Question stuff. But do you guys want to do anything else before I go to the stuff?
No, I think we, yeah, I mean, we sort of resolved the main stuff so far. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah. So basically, I got a couple questions here, and I think it'll be interesting because, you know, we can sit here and talk about certain topics and stuff like that, but I think these questions will give people a better insight into, you know, your guys' mindset on something. So what I'll do is I got these questions. I'll answer it first to give you guys time to come up with your own things because some of them are pretty thought-provoking. So I'll try to keep it simple. The first one I was going to ask was, looking back, what book, person, or Red pilled you, right? And how did that change the trajectory of your content or public persona? So for me, the thing that red pilled me, and I kind of broke it down into categories. What red pilled me on women was reading The Mystery Method and a book called Conquer Your Campus when I was like graduating from high school. That's what red pilled me on women. Figuring out this, this whole thing about how important social status is to them and how they're looking for a certain percentage of men.
Offensive arms explosives on Alpha.
What red pilled me on the Jews was 9/11 and JFK. Right? No matter how many slices I said, there was absolutely Israeli fingerprints all over 9/11, all over the JFK assassination. Especially when you look at the nuclear weapon component, which is almost never mentioned in American media. Now, even the JFK and all of
Enemy forces are on the brink of collapse.
the nuclear weapons angle, and then you find out that the movie was funded by a guy named Arne Milchan, who was literally Israeli intelligence from the unacknowledged nuclear program. So like they had an incentive to keep that information from Americans, and this stuff has been like suppressed for a while. So that definitely red pilled me when it came to that. And then when it comes to money, real estate, usury, and basically central banking is what red pilled me on money. So I'll turn it to you guys. I mean, if you want to break it down in categories, you can. But those are the things that I would say red pilled me on those three topics.
Andrew, you want to go in and
Yeah, like first, isn't that how it works?
Yeah, so the question is basically,
I'm at the back of the bus.
looking back, what book, person, or event red pilled you? Right? It changed the way that you would make content, or changed the trajectory of how you would make content for the rest of your life. What was the red pill on women, just so to speak, or the red pill on finance, or whatever it may be. But either one of you guys could take it.
I'll run it then. I'll go. Should I go?
yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, a lot of my views come from personal experience. I wouldn't say they were a book as such. I wouldn't say it was a movie I watched that red pilled me. I would say that, Nick is definitely the figurehead of the movement against Jewish influence, and I think that I am and was the figurehead of the movement against feminism. And a lot of people have now come along and said that women are the foot soldiers of the Jewish influence, and perhaps that's true. But every single problem I saw with society led back to one place. And that doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean women are inherently evil. It means that societies have always been productive and functioned a certain way with a patriarchy. And it allowed us to fend off foreign invaders and reproduce and have children and be in love. And it allowed men to feel like they had a stake in society worth fighting for. Men used to paint a beautiful girl on the side of a Spitfire and go die. Like, we did all of this for women, not because we hated women. We didn't oppress women. We did it for them, in service to them. And it turns out they've been massively ungrateful for that. And nearly any problem you can name, I can tie back to one thing. And it comes down to girls chasing Instagram likes instead of children and not listening to men. So I kind of came to this conclusion myself. And by and large, I had this mentality for a very long time, and I didn't really blow up on the internet until COVID, when I decided to really fight back against the systems in the matrix, because COVID was complete insanity. And I was living in Sweden at the time in absolute freedom, by the way, with no mask, no vaccine, completely normal society, while the rest of the world were locked in their houses. And I thought, this is crazy. So that's when I started to blow up online and get big. And I never began the crusade intending on becoming the most Googled man in the world. A lot of people don't actually know that in 2022, before I was arrested, I was saying to Tristan, this is the story of Icarus. We're way too big. They're gonna come and they're gonna get us. Turns out the UK Foreign Office wrote to the Romanians, and I have that on paper. I have proof of them doing that, saying, shut this guy up, he's a national security. Because they knew that my momentum had to be stopped. And if I were to continue to red pill and continue to mobilize the young men of the world, that they would lose their grip on society. And that's why, to this day, the UK government has an active warrant for my arrest, because they know if I go to England, the Bruv Party will win the next election. They know that. So the second I land, I get thrown into jail for and that's what they're doing to try and keep their grip on power. So a lot of it was just my own decision And then I saw how upset everybody got by me saying these things, and I realized that if people are getting so mad by it, there has to be an element of truth to it. If I sit here and say the sky is green, everyone will ignore me. They don't care when you lie. They care when you say things that are close to the truth. And I kind of ran with it, and I wouldn't say there was any particular thing I read. A lot of it was just personal experience, tying it back to all the same problems, because I believe patriarchal societies, if our society became patriarchal tomorrow, we could instantly fix 95% of the issues we currently face. And if you look at the societies which are actually succeeding now, if you look at the Middle East and the societies that are successful from a birth rate perspective, from a safety perspective, from an economic perspective, they're all patriarchal societies. And my major point I was making is that the West is now becoming America is a matriarchal society currently as it stands right now today. Even under Trump, it's matriarchal. If a man wants to have power, if he wants to be in Senate or be a politician, he has to parade his wife around for some reason. Putin doesn't have to parade his wife around. I've never seen the king of Saudi parade his wife around. What do their wife even know about politics? Why are they there? I don't know. But we live in this insane matriarchy where we have so much power over the men.
We are suffering through
And they're using it to suppress and destroy the most masculine of men, which are the ones who are going to be defending the society. So I always had this gripe with that and that alone. And it turns out that big women are as powerful as big pharma and big education and big Jew, because they fucking came for me. They did not like what I said. And they came for me hard. And of course they accuse you of crimes against women because it makes perfect sense for them to attack you with it. And here I am, 11 court cases deep. I've been federally investigated by the American government, the British government, the Polish government, the Hungarian government, the Romanian government. No one has enough evidence to put me in jail, showing that I'm actually completely more innocent than the man you walk past in the mall.
have set
If anyone else
explosives
went
on
through this
Alpha.
level of shit, they'd be in fucking jail. So, also, tying back to our earlier conversation,
Hostiles
there
have
is
disarmed
part
our
of me that
explosives
thinks,
on Alpha.
I've been through all this shit, and then I get called a Jew and a fed? Like, because I was the one who was killing the generation, I was the one who took all this risk against everybody, and now
We have
it
armed explosives on
does.
objective Bravo.
Even though you don't care, it does make you feel what's the point of trying. And this is why the elites win, by the way. Especially in my position. I have $700 million liquid. I can just fucking fuck off one of y'all and say, fuck those peasants. And just go be one of them. And I don't do that. I sit there and I try and tell the truth and I try and be honest about things. And you get so many things for it that I do believe when I'm talking about our movement inside of the movement. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And as Nick continues on his run, becomes more and more powerful, as he does more and more fantastic things and becomes a larger and larger political force, when X amount of his own movement turn on him and start calling him a Jew for something he once said, even he's gonna sit there and go, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I getting things? And that's what happens. So, all in all, mine was just personal experience with women, bro. I mean, I didn't have to watch Fresh and Fit. I knew what was going on for a very long time.
Yeah, and just add to what you were saying. You were saying like, obviously patriarchy is just winning in general. And I would argue COVID was also like a big red pill because to defer to the masses, the fact that we locked down, the fact that we had all these
Set
scares,
explosives on Alpha.
that I think is very indicative of how much we the humanitarian nature of women.
Well, the reason they're so scared of me and the reason they're trying to get rid of me is because when you have women in charge of a society, it's not complicated. You put women in charge, and then you use an emotional argument to manipulate the women, and the women yell at their husbands, and that one says okay, and then they sit at home all day, and that's what happens. So, COVID was one big emotional argument. But grandma was the fucking argument. We're locking us all in our house for years. That's the female mentality. A man would sit and say, well, grandma's gonna die anyway. Grandma's 94, and I need to go to work. So maybe we more women. So yeah, COVID was one big psyop. Run from the matriarchal frame. Every single man who was scared of his wife got the vaccine because of grandma. And every single man who was in charge of it said none of us get the vaccine. Shut up and turn it off. Do what your life is normal. So yeah, absolutely. And the primary objective of the Matrix, and I'm fighting a different fight than Nick. He's been fighting for years. But I truly believe the reason it's so hard trying to make sure in every movie, in the culture, in the law, in all the mechanisms citizens that women are above men is because they can simply scare the women or use an emotional argument on the women. And if they're in charge of society, then they have absolute control over the society and they don't need to convince us of anything. Men must be convinced. You have to convince me. You don't have to convince a woman, you have to scare her. And that's much easier to do than Chinese dudes falling over. I never saw anyone fall over on the street, but in China, supposedly they're falling over left and fucking right. And chicks had a mental breakdown. So I went to war against that because I saw it was all just industrial violence. And maybe at a level deeper, yeah, perhaps there's certainly people who are doing this on purpose and weaponizing women against men. They've certainly weaponized women against me. I mean, I'm fucking from personal experience. They call 1,000 women who know me and they find one idiot, and I get dragged to jail. I mean, they certainly weaponize women against me, so perhaps women are not the tip of the spear. Perhaps they're the foot soldier. Perhaps they're the pawn and not the king and the queen. That's another argument. But that's where all of my mindset came from, and that's why I was on the crusade I was on. And a lot of people misinterpreted, and a lot of stupid people in my own movement misunderstood me and thought that means that you can beat the shit out of women or shoot them or run around, you know, and all these crazy things, which once again gets applied to me, and I go to jail. And that's not what I was saying. I was saying that the world's a happier place with men in charge. That's what I was trying to do.
What about you, Nick? I'll repeat it because I know we basically.
No, I remember.
Okay,
It's
yeah. What red pilled you?
Yeah, I got red pilled back in 2016, and it was a process like it is for everybody. I was a basic bitch conservative when I was in high school because I read all the libertarian stuff and I read all the conservative and neoconservative stuff, and I was a Ben Shapiro fan. Enough said. Yeah, that's just what there was. You know, back in those days, if you were a mainstream person, you had PragerU, Breitbart, you had, you know, the usual suspects. And what red pilled me, Trump was a big part of it. Sam Hyde was a big part of it. But I had a buddy of mine. He was like autistic. He was a straight up Asperger's genius. And he was on 4chan all the time. And he was a good friend of mine. We were in Model UN and other stuff together. And I'll never forget, I must have been a junior or senior in high school. And he called me into this room when we were setting up for our Model UN conference, and somebody goes, "Oh, Nick, there's this sophomore that's saying the Holocaust never happened." And I was like, "Really?" So I go in, I hear him out. I said, "Yeah, that's sort of interesting." And then we went and we campaigned for Paul Nealon that summer, a couple of years later. And I was hitting him with all the Israel arguments. This was in 2016. I'm saying, but they fought 4 wars of extermination against Israel. Like Israel is this island of civilization in a sea of barbarians. All the usual shit. And he fought back and made the case for the Palestinians and for the Arabs and all this. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. And what really did it for me is I got to the point in college. There were a number of other things that happened to me over time. But I got to the point in college where I said, is it all a Jewish conspiracy? And I thought to myself, there's got to be an argument that it isn't. Like there must, like, are they really suppressing this truth? There's got to be like a book out there that debunks all this stuff. And then what really did it for me is that on 9/11 in 2016, during the election, if you remember, Hillary Clinton was like not well. She was sick. And on 9/11, she did a thing with Donald Trump, actually. They were both in New York for the anniversary of 9/11 on the same day, and she fainted. And they literally picked her up like a rag doll and threw her into a van. I don't know if you remember that video, but she was literally like rag doll, and they fucking tossed her in a van. And then 5 hours later, they had all these explanations. They said, oh, it was too hot. Oh, she actually had pneumonia. And she comes out of Chelsea Clinton's apartment and hugs like a little girl. And it's like, wait a second. So first you said it was too hot. Then you said she has pneumonia. But if she has pneumonia, why is she hugging this kid? And everyone in the media lied about it. And in that moment, I knew if they could lie about this, they could lie about anything. Because they're willing and they're able to lie. And if people are not willing to investigate it or dig deeper because of censorship, because of, you know, it's a regulated press, I said, then they could lie about all this stuff. And that, for me, that's when I realized this, like, benefit of the doubt could not be afforded to any narrative. Because that's really what it is. No one has investigated. The vast majority of people at that point had not investigated the 9/11 truth movement or the Holocaust or Israel or any of these things. All they had was the benefit of the doubt. that stuff is conspiracy territory. We believe the government. We believe the mainstream narrative. And I said, if they can lie about something that I saw with my own eyes, then we can't afford the official narrative to benefit of the doubt on any of these things. And so that was the big break for me. It wasn't a book. It was just kind of this gradual noticing and kind of taking this tenuous frame, you know, for how to perceive things and just seeing it confirmed over and over. And then when I saw that, I said it's totally plausible that they're covering it up. And that was it for me.
Shit. So that perfectly dovetails into my next question. So my next question is, what was your first comment, tweet, video, or anything else that forever put you in the controversial category? And I'll go first on this one and then turn it to you guys. The thing that got me automatically put in the box of, you know, misogynist or whatever, which is kind of like how all this started, was back in 2020. I made a comment saying, if a woman flakes on a date, you need to punish that bad behavior, and she's got to go ahead and pay for the first round of drinks when you guys meet up on the reschedule, right? And like The View and a bunch of, you know, left-wing shows looked at it like, what, are we dogs? This guy's over here saying you gotta punish bad behavior, but what I was really doing was I was telling guys, like, you can't accept poor behavior from women and reward it. So you gotta, you know, if she makes a mistake, you gotta make her pay for that. And they obviously likened it to training a dog, which, hey, maybe that's what I meant. But the point is that after I made that comment, because it went viral on TikTok, it got millions of views, and this is right after I had left the government, right? I wasn't even on the internet like that. And this is back when TikTok like still had an organic, sharing ability with the algorithm. So I would say that was the first thing that kind of got me in there. And then obviously a bunch of other things I said about women and, you know, top H and all this other shit. But I would say that's the one thing that like started it. So what about you guys? I know you guys probably have a couple of things that like put you on the map, but what would you guys say is the most controversial thing you said that put you in this box forever?
Nick?
Most controversial thing that got me in there? There was a lot of things over the years, you know, one thing after the next. I would say it was the cookie joke is really what did it, because you know, and it's so stupid. It's always the dumbest shit, isn't it? It's never like your actual good jokes, your favorite jokes. It's always the stupid shit that they use. And, you know, at that point, so, you know, I got canceled in 2017 for just a lot of nonsense. And I was young and I wasn't very big. I was a very minor streamer. And then in 2019, I started to get a little traction because I was going really hard against Charlie Kirk and against Ben Shapiro, and it was going really well and everybody was on my side. And what they used to kind of shoot me out of the sky was this joke where some super chatter sent in. They said, well, if the Cookie Monster has 6 million cookies, how long does it take to, you know, whatever. And they used that to frame me as a Holocaust denier. So up until that point, you know, they could have said I was alt-right. Well, that doesn't mean anything. They could have said I was a white supremacist. Okay, they call everyone that. But then they took that joke and said, oh, he's a Holocaust denier. And they literally, at that point, that joke was a year old. I didn't even come up with it. Someone else sent it. Not that I don't own the sentiment, but it was such a stupid fucking thing. And then I get the Washington Post calling me and saying, do you deny the Holocaust? Do you believe it was 6 million? And I'm like, really? So that was kind of what really took me out for a minute. And, you know, but they call me fucking everything. So there's a million reasons I'm canceled. But that was maybe the big one.
Yeah, I still use that reference to this day with the whole Cookie Monster thing. I think it's like a funny way to kind of bring it up. But what about you, Andrew? What would you say is the comment or tweet or statement that put you in the controversial box forever?
Yeah, I was around for a while and I was telling the truth for a while. And then on a podcast in Croatia, we were discussing the age of women. And I said that men prefer women who are younger. You prefer a woman who's 21 as opposed to 30. And the people asked why. And I said, because she's been fucked less. And I made the point that the more men who have fucked her, the less likely she is to truly fall in love with you. So I made this point that it's not pedophilia to like younger women. You're just trying to find a woman with less life experience because by and large, they've been fucked less than older women. Anyway, I made that point. The podcast came out. The next day, 400 different Instagram accounts had the same post and the same caption saying I was dangerous and misogynistic and homophobic and racist all at once. They didn't even say anything homophobic or racist. They just threw that in there. And this is where I always knew the Matrix was real, but it was kind of flabbergasting. The next day I woke up and 400 accounts were being also, the ADL said I was anti-Semitic on this day. I was like, I didn't even mention the Jews ever at this point. I never even mentioned it, and now I'm on that list. So that was really weird. And then 24 hours after that, I got the mask. Every single app on my phone logged out. My Gmail, my Skype, my Airbnb. I got banned on Instagram, banned on Discord. WhatsApp was banned. Every single application they banned me overnight, and they started putting me on the BBC saying that I'm dangerous and I was banned for being a terrorist.
Was this worse than depression isn't real? Because I remember when you said depression
wasn't real, got traction, and a lot of people, you know, were unhappy by it. But that was the one comment that really set the world into overdrive. And I sat there and I thought, why are they so threatened by that? And the extension is very simple. If you tell men to have standards for themselves, you're now an enemy of the system because they don't want men to have any degree of standard. And that's where the right-wing Christians and the Catholics hate me. Because they're basically saying, don't have standards. They're saying, meet a woman and marry her and do the right thing. Well, it's probably a fucking whore. I'm not doing that. And they say I'm a bad person. Well, I make a whole bunch of white babies. I'm white enough. When I find a white woman, my kids look white as snow. So I'm not having white babies. And throughout all of the bullshit I've been through, have any of my women betrayed me? We saw what happened with Crowder's wife and all these people. Have anyone come out and betrayed me? Some whores have come out and accused me of bullshit. Have any of the women with my kids or the women I'm close with betrayed me, let me down, or they all stuck by me the entire way through? Like, I have good women around me with good loyalty inside of them, so I must be doing something right. But as soon as I told men have any degree of standards for themselves and not instantly accept women and all their bad decisions, the entire system had a meltdown. And I think that's what really red-pilled me and made me realize that, yeah, big women's a thing.
What year was that?
Explosive set!
2021. There was a couple layers below, perhaps, the true power structures at the top, but women are certainly the pawns for the foot soldiers, convincing, and this is the thing that's so sad about it, and this is the thing when I make these tweets, which are deliberately provocative, people attack me for them. They're deliberately using women to attack white men. Only white men listen to them. Black men don't listen to them. We don't listen to them. We don't care. White men are the only ones who say, well, the white men want things enough. Well, if you're going to listen to her, and she's a tool being used to get rid of your race, well, then you're going to go extinct. So I realize I really hit the nerve with that. Because it's backlash, and then my legal problems began. UK Foreign Office wrote to the Romanians, and we all know the rest of the story. So that's when I really knew I was close to something. And big women is a serious fight, and I think a lot of people underestimate how much trouble you can get in for just saying as a man that you're allowed to have standards, you're allowed to accept loyalty and integrity from females, and you, for the same reason you don't want disloyal men around you don't want disloyal women around you, and their pasts do matter, because if someone who's a thief their whole life, they're going to continue to steal. If they're a whore their whole life, they'll continue to be a whore. And all of these things are very valid, but for some reason you cannot say them. And that's time you have control. Nick, with all due respect, barely saw him. They had his ass locked out. I was around a little bit, but Kamala was in charge and all these things, and they did their very best to get rid of him. So that's when I really realized that they are very threatened by the basic idea of masculine integrity, sovereignty, and honor and strength. They're threatened by men who are not afraid of them. That's all it is. They're threatened by men who do not think to do it.
Question for you, Nick, because when it comes to women, you and Tate have a very similar ideology. Get sexual experience, increase your net worth, become the highest status you can be, and then kind of have your pick of the litter and get to a position where female sexual leverage can no longer control you, right? Someone like yourself, right? You're religious, you're devout Catholic. Obviously, you're young. You have a huge young audience that follows you. Obviously, on one end, you have the Catholic mindset where, you know, monogamy, one wife, etc. But on the other hand, you know the realities of modern women now in 2025 versus 1955. And a lot of people that are your kind of counterparts, like a Matt Walsh, etc., advocate for the monogamy style, despite the fact that we're dealing with modern women. So as a guy that's like religious, right, that's religious but still based on what modern women are, what's your take on this situation? How should men navigate the current sexual marketplace, in your opinion?
Well, I did a whole show about this on the Walsh versus Tate debate, and obviously I'm Catholic, so I do believe in one wife, one wife, monogamous, no adultery, no cheating, and you have kids. But I do think that the tradcasts, the traditionalists, they're just not being honest about the deal. They want to LARP like it's the 50s, but it's not the 50s, and that matters. You know, they're telling everybody, get married young, have more kids than you can afford. And that was the law, you know, 100 years ago. Maybe that was the rule. That's what everybody was doing. But the whole situation was different. There was a social and cultural taboo against women even being like bossy, mouthy, sarcastic. They didn't want to be a shrew. They didn't want to be a bitch. They couldn't just divorce you with no reason by themselves and then take your stuff and your kids. They didn't have group chats. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have Instagram. It was a different world. And so, you know, a lot of people like to, it really is a reckless message. And they like to say out of this LARP, you know, pandering to the crowd, they say, oh, yeah, get married young, have more kids than you can afford. You know what the elite would hate? Have more kids, all this kind of stuff. And my message to the young men is you really got to get solid before you consider marriage. And when you get married, it's got to be an extremely judicious decision. You know, if you're going to have a wife, and I believe you should have one wife, you got to pick the right one. And when you pick the right one, you got to lay the ground rules early. You know, a lot of these young Catholic men, they're so taken by the women because they have no experience with them that they become simps, and the women run their shit. And I see it. I know many people that are like this. You know, I know many young men who are married and the wife runs their shit. She wears the pants. And these good little Catholic boys, it's almost like they buy into it more than the woman does. Because a good little Catholic guy says, oh, she's an A.
Okay. What we doing?
7.
All right, Jimmy, here's what we're doing.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh
Don't
God.
show it. Don't show it until you get to the camera.
I know.
Oh.
Jack, this better be a real good one.
Okay, here we go. Countdown 3, 2, 1, X.
3,
I'm panicking.
2, 1. Live reveal.
Paintball hit.
Oh, my God.
Hey, yo.
Let me just look around a second. Bro, just let me look around.
All right. Here's what I'll say.
Okay.
200. If we hit 210,000, I'll get shot. You guys
Cool.
figure out who
Twice?
does it. One time.
Okay.
No possibility of sex at all. Are you still gonna have a great time with a woman? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's only fun if there's a possibility of sex, because the game is fun. The game of, am I gonna get laid? You know, when men talk about that, that's the part that's fun. The part that's fun is not her witty banter. It's not her stupid fucking inane commentary. It's the fact that you're playing a game. It's like gambling. And anyway, so I try to explain that. It doesn't come across all the time, but that's kind of my, you know, maybe my fence sitting position. I'm spiritually with Tate, but by law, I'm with Matt Walsh, I guess.
Yes, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask you that so much, because, and Andrew, me and you have had private conversations on this stuff for years, how much women annoy us and stuff like that. And I find it interesting that, and I'm going to turn it to you, Andrew, that they call us gay. They call us weird because we don't enjoy the company of women. We'd rather be around like-minded guys that are higher IQ so that we can make each other sharper. But then normies will sit there and be like, you don't want to be around women? You're gay. Like, it's retarded. But go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I think white people especially have a very precarious scenario because they're on the risk of basically simping themselves into extinction. Like, whenever I see these OnlyFans girls say, I made $1 million in a day, I know there's not a single nigger who sent her $1. Like, that's all white people. That's white people. That's white boys. A lot of them are the same ones talking about getting married. And I can even talk about my webcam company I had, which I've been very honest and open about. All those were white men. They were all married. They all were, I love my wife, and then going to the toilet with a laptop, jerking off when their wife went to sleep. These people aren't even loyal. That's the worst thing about it. They pretend to be loyal, but perhaps they can't do any better, or they're scared of getting a divorce rate. They're not even actually genuinely loyal. So white people are in a really precarious scenario because they're the only ones who listen to women at all. And they're on the verge of basically simping themselves into extinction. The OnlyFans girl who just extorted Shannon Sharp and sued him for assault, took all of his money, took $10 million. And now she's walking around there, and I guess what? It's gonna be some little white boy Catholic who meets her, holds her hand, and says, I can't believe that big black man did those evil things to you. You definitely didn't want him to fuck you like that, you poor thing. Let me marry you, love you, darling, and maybe get one kid to pay his divorce rate and end up This is a big white problem. This simping shit is a white issue. It's a big one. And it's difficult. It is difficult, and I understand what Nick's saying about, you know, he's a Catholic and he has certain rules and certain things he wants to live by. I get it. The life system I came up with was basically me just looking at the chessboard and going, okay, what's the game? How do I keep my sovereignty? And I made that decision to do those things so I can have 25 children, because I believe that's the most important thing to do. But doing that has alienated a huge swath of people who then say I'm a bad person because I'm not married and I don't have one wife and I'm not Catholic, and that I am a terrible Jew for some reason, not understanding their mindset.
We need defensive support on the marked objective.
In their countries, and they are simping themselves to
Hostiles are inbound. Hold them here and defend the sector.
And jerk off the girls who are actually doing that. So the whole thing is so hypocritical. By and large, yeah, there was a pretty simple societal contract which has now been broken. I'll protect and provide for you, and you'll do as I say. And that's now been broken, and women don't want to listen. And men are still expected, from the tradcons at least, to do all the work with none of the rewards. And I think, as Nick quite correctly pointed out, it's very jealous, it's very dangerous to tell young men to go and sign up for that deal.
Armed explosives on Alpha.
Force of the law will come down anytime he wants and destroy the guy. So, before, you know, we're right. We have a lot of things to do when it comes to being bold with the reins of power. That's all true. But we also have a lot of things to do when it comes down to the simple fact that we need people to have families that they're proud of, that they can reproduce within, without being completely fucking decimated emotionally, financially, and most importantly, spiritually. No man is going to go to war for his country if he doesn't feel like he's in his house. If he comes home and his wife doesn't listen to him, he's getting fucking henpecked. He has to go to the street or defend that town. You're breaking the man's spirit. You're breaking his soul over a fucking toilet seat. And you're wondering why they get away with what they get away with. That's why big women fucking strike. That's why they freaking fight. That's why they have the full force of the law behind them. Who, by the way, are men with guns. Men. So it's a really precarious scenario. I don't know how to do it. Because I'm in a very unique situation. I'm one of the most famous men. Of course I can get women out of my face. Of course I find myself all day, get them in, free in and out of the house a day. No one else can do that. If you're a normal man, what do? How do you set yourself up to win? It's extremely difficult, but it is a conundrum that must be solved.
Shit. So my next question, and this is a little bit more in depth, but obviously we talked about with you, Andrew, your comments on roughly 2021, the kind of picture on at what moment? Okay. Now I'm 10 toes down on this, right? Like, what made you say, okay, this experience right here, I'm 10 toes down. I can kind of go through me and then turn it over to you guys. For me, as you know, Nick, you've been well over 2 years now, right? And I put
Enemy forces have taken the sector. Fall back.
discussions I had with you,
defensive positions on the double. Out.
A bunch of different platforms, etc. We're talking about this because we were talking about this before October 7th. I want to make it very clear to set more credence to what you're saying. We talked about Israel, Zionism, any of this stuff prior to 10/7. You were pretty much guaranteed.
Final sector is under attack. Defend all marked objectives. I say again, defend all objectives.
We were paying for literally what's going on right now is a genocide. I think it's irrefutable now that what's going on is a genocide. Every single scholar that's a genocide scholar, hell, even Holocaust researchers, this is a genocide.
I said on October 8th, you know, 11 months back in the winter.
Yep. And that was still when things were hazy from the fog of war. But now I would say almost 2 years later, right? It's pretty apparent. So after I saw what happened and how Israel responded and used our tax dollars to literally wage not just a war in Gaza, but to conduct a war throughout the entire Middle East, right? Like they've been doing with, you know, a lot of these, like, whatever. That's when I said, you know what? I'm going to keep talking about this shit. These motherfuckers robbed me my money. They're robbing my platform. I'm not going to let them do it. Out of the fucking mood. We're going to keep going. What was that moment for you guys?
Well, for me, you know, I got canceled very young. I got canceled when I was 18, and there was really just no other option for me. You know, because I basically got canceled within 4 months of starting my career, 3 months. I started my show on February 17. I was canceled by like March or April or May of the same year. And for me, it was the only way out was through. I knew that if I just took my lumps, I was just never going to work in politics. I had already been blacklisted. So the idea that I would get a job at Campus Reform or Daily Wire, PragerU, I was out. And I was out because of my views. I knew at that time, not even just my views about the Jews, but about race, about any of it, it was just not kosher. I could not get access or opportunities anywhere. It was so gay back then. People don't even realize. People forget that. And that's why I think I don't get enough credit. Because back in 17, it was like you had to be on board with like limitless immigration and like gay marriage and feminism to be in the right wing, to have a job. Like I remember there were people at like Daily Caller that thought they were based because they would sneak in like the, you know, the most entry-level red pill or something in an article or whatever. So I basically made the decision I was going to have to kind of build my own thing. I was going to have to do my own thing and change the culture. Either make my scene on the outside so big, or by existing on the outside, change the inside. And that is what happened either with some of my influence or probably just due to the course of events on some level. But it was very early on. I just made the decision that, look, I'm in politics. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to figure it out one day at a time. I was on the outside almost from the very beginning, and there was never going to be any other way for me. I guess the big thing was I tried to get a job in the conservative movement at the Leadership Institute, and I went there for a 2-week job training. And the first day they said, everybody in the class go up and down and answer the question why you're a conservative. And I gave this like speech. I was like, you know, France is no longer France. America's no longer America. I'm like, if we don't close the damn borders to these immigrants, our civilization's gone. It's about the people. And which, like nowadays, it's like, okay, that's like 101. But the lady who oversaw the class, she was an immigrant herself. She tanked my application the first day. And so I said, wow, I can't even get an entry-level job at like this bumfuck, like non-profit or whatever, creating Leadership Institute chapters on college campuses. I was like, if I can't get a job here, this is really cooked. I got fired from RSBN like a week later. So that's kind of what did it for me. It's like, clearly I'm not going to be able to climb this ladder at all. So I had to go and just do it myself.
I really want to have the audience understand this, right? I've been recently getting involved in political commentary, right? And, you know, me coming in as an outsider, right? Coming in as how the conservative media apparatus works. It's controlled by Jews, bro. It's fucking crazy. And people understand how much of a career destruction it is to be a political commentator in conservative media and conservative media. It is literally a death sentence. So, I just wanted to add a little bit more criticism.
We need to rally defense on the marked objective.
How bad they responded.
Enemy charges armed on objective Bravo.
About Israel. And this is coming in as an outsider observing this. So, bro, kudos to you, man. And I don't think you've been for so long. And literally losing everything for it, dude. Because conservative media is absolutely fucking wrong. But Andrew, what about you? What would you say was the turning point where you said, I'm 10 toes in now, fuck these assholes?
No, you're absolutely right, because
We've eliminated most
it's an
defenders.
indefensible position by this point to still be defending Israel. And a lot of the mainstream conservative influences are still trying to do
You're outside the combat area.
conservatism as a whole. I would argue that this whole Israel-Palestine debate destroyed the whole idea of conservatism as a whole, because I have nothing against Charlie Kirk. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him.
We're tracking you outside the AO. Get back.
About the basic things about, transgenders or whatever. I have nothing against him. But the second he defends Israel, it's indefensible. It's indefensible. There's no way to defend
Enemy charge set on objective Bravo.
And the fact that they still try to do it, even though it's a completely indefensible position, shows how afraid they are of the blackballing. The mentality was, I guess, perhaps I came to this conclusion, which isn't completely correct, but I like to believe that our enemies, although they're evil, they're not particularly special individuals. They're not particularly unique. They're not actually great people. They're evil people, but they're not great people. And this was my conclusion from going from council estate, single mother household, mixed race guy, all the way up to like the Bugatti Owners Club of hundreds of millions of dollars. And my entire way up, like, so where's the good people at? Where's the amazing individuals? And you get up to the top and realize that everyone's a fucking dipshit. Even all these people with all the powers are dipshit. Keir Starmer's a dipshit. They're all fucking dumb. And I came to this conclusion that somehow all of the people who have agency amongst themselves, who are unafraid of the cancellation and peer pressure, who are charismatic, who are mentally strong, these people always seem to be on the right side. And all the people who are on the wrong side, although they may have power on paper, are very extraordinary individuals. They're really not impressive people. And I guess from there, I just kind of started to push my audience. My message is very base level. It's very mental strength, physical strength. Don't be afraid. Get rich so they can't cancel you at your job. Stick up for yourself. Escape the matrix. Be sovereign. And then I added all this in with trying to encourage men to be charismatic, to say what they need to say in a way that people are going to agree with them. Like me and you have done it on Fresh and Fit. We'll sit down, talk to a bunch of whores, and by the end of it, have them saying, yeah, I'm a whore. I shouldn't have done that. Like, that's the job, right? So by trying to just encourage masculine strength and charisma in the by and large, I was trying to bring people over to our side of the fight, because I think our enemies are actually the most unimpressive people on the planet. So once I felt like that was the way out, I just doubled down on it. It wasn't only just about me. I know Andrew Tate fans train mentally and physically. I know Andrew Tate fans are hard to intimidate. I know Andrew Tate fans will say what they believe in. I know Andrew Tate fans are trying to get rich. I know Andrew Tate fans. I know what they're doing. And by and large, anyone who does those things falls on the right side of history. So that was my decision.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, here's a good one that I want to. So, what do you guys think is the most misunderstood position that you hold? Right? That people always mischaracterize. If you do an interview, it's almost guaranteed to fucking come up, right? And knowing what you know now, how would you reframe it? I can go ahead and go first here on this one. So one of the positions that people always get fucking pissed off at me about is I say, need to have sex with 50 women before you start thinking about even getting married, right? Make 6 figures a year, have at least half a year of savings in a bank account somewhere, be in good shape, obviously be 35 years old or older, and then have no one argues with me about the 4 things I mentioned before, but when I talk about having sex with 50 girls, people really harping on that 50 number and say that's degenerate, blah, blah, blah. But the reason why I say that is because I want guys to be in a position where sex is no longer novel to them, right? So that they can be in a position of dominance where their girl can't leverage sex against it for compliance, right? This happy wife, happy life bullshit, right? Just because I understand how feminism and modern women in general have changed the dating dynamic or the marriage dynamic, to even to the point where we got people that are religious like Nick that can even acknowledge it. So
Be
a
advised,
lot of people
hostiles are targeting our sector communications. Move to defensive positions.
But my point is, I just need you to get to a point where sex is no longer a novelty and your wife can't hold it against you. So that's my position that people always fucking
We need to
misunderstand
defend the
and
marked
attack me on.
objective.
But when I actually explain it, they're like, oh,
Enemy
that
charges
makes
are set
sense.
on
Which a lot
Bravo.
of people are. They watch clips, they don't watch full content. So what would you guys say? Since one of your positions always fucking mischaracterized. Can you clarify? And then if you could do it again, how would you reframe it now, knowing what you know?
Hostile explosives on Bravo have been disabled.
I mean, it depends on where it's coming from. With regard to the normie crowd, it's like everything, and it's always been everything. You know, they mischaracterize my position on race, Israel, women, you name it. Or if it's from the right, I would say the biggest one is that I'm an extremist. I mean, I don't think I'm an extremist at all. I think I'm moderate. It's kind of like my new thing. Because I talk to these people and they're anticipating me to be like a raging caricature of a skinhead or something like that. And when it really comes down to it, with regard to all these different issues, I think that what is called far-right, what is called anti-Semitic, what is called white supremacist, it's really just reality. You know, I had a clip that went viral over the past couple weeks where I'm talking about black people in Chicago. And we emerged from a time recently where there was so much political correctness around the subject of race and race relations between blacks and whites. And so I think the conversation is sufficient now. People see my take, and what I'm saying is like, look, the city is a shithole. And it's a shithole because you got carjackings happening all the time. It's because you have this like impropriety everywhere. You know, we talk about black people in America, people talk about fatigue, you know, fatigue from dealing with black people. It's like we all know in our lived experience in our day-to-day, what we can expect from black people is people being inconsiderate, people being rude, aggressive, menacing, not following the rules. And that's kind of always been my position. It's like, you know, on some level, people look at a person like myself or others and they think we want to ship all the black people out of America. We want to kill them all or something like that. And it's like, they've been here forever. They've been here for 400 years. They've been here longer than my family's been here. We just want them to behave. We just want to hold everybody to a standard where people are polite, respectful, clean, you know, decent, peaceful, and the rest of it. And it's like, now that I'm back on these mainstream platforms, I do a monologue about it, and even the black people are all saying, yeah, I agree with him. I get where he's coming from. So, you know, that's just like one example. I think that we really just need to return to common sense, and not like the gay common sense like Donald Trump, where, you know, he says common sense is like no transgenderism. I'm talking about like old school racism being common sense, where it's like, yeah, we all know not all black people are bad. We also know what's going on with them, you know? And yeah, we don't have some weird desire to like dominate women or, you know, bully them. But we're also like, yeah, they kind of need to be put in their place. You know, they do need a strong hand. They do need someone to treat them in an assertive way. And even as far as the Jews are concerned, for centuries, for millennia, we know what's going on with the Jews. Now, we don't want to kill them all. We don't want to hurt them. You know, people say you're a Nazi. You want another Holocaust? Absolutely not. At the same time, we know they fucking love Israel, and they're very tribalist. Is it a good idea to have them run in Congress when they're walking in with an IDF uniform? Obviously not. So we just need that kind of like old school common sense. I would say that's maybe the rebrand. I would say I'm moderate. That's the misunderstanding.
Yeah, it's funny to me because, you know, people that aren't familiar with you, one of the first things they say is, you're friends with a white supremacist. And then, you know, this guy hates black people. Why are you even around him? I'm like, that's not true. Like, I know the person. I've known him for a few years now. Very cordial, very nice. And then people forget that he helped Ye with Ye 24. So if you were so racist, why would you be helping a black man become racist? So I always laugh when they say this stuff. What about you? What would you say mischaracterize whenever you do interviews? I know a lot of people. There's a bunch with you. I know they mischaracterize.
Yeah, but none of the mischaracterizations are genuine. None of them are genuine mischaracterization. It's to find people hoax all over. It's the wrap-up smear. They do it on purpose, and they know exactly what they're doing. They take something you've said, and they take a small part of it, they take out of context, and they repeat it over and over and over. As I said, the whole Christian, even the Jewish right wing, no one had a problem really until I talked about liberation. That's a huge issue. And it was all instant overnight, and it changed instantly. So none of it was genuine. And, you know, Nick's point is very basic. That's why humans are alive. If you eat that plant, it's poisonous. It's fucking pattern recognition at this point. It's not racism. It's not anti-Semitism. The things we're pointing out are simply very well-known pattern recognition, and people are too afraid to say them. But I don't think any of my viewpoints are genuinely misunderstood. I don't believe I could have said them in any other way to make people understand them. I believe no matter how I said it, they would have taken it, and one of the things that's most important is understanding when they weaponize things against you, they always weaponize it. They're not going to weaponize the fact that, you know, they're not going to sit there and pretend that you're a bad person unless they get to be a great person. So they're going to come along and pretend they give a shit about women so much that they can attack me. And they're going to come along and pretend they give a fuck about the Holocaust so they can attack Nick and you guys and me. It's all just weaponized virtue garbage. It's the oldest trick in the book, but a lot of people still fall for it. So if you're going to tell the truth in this world, if you're going to sit there and say, yeah, this is the actual reality of what's happening, you're always going to get pinned with some bullshit, no matter how you say it. And the most important thing you can do is not give a fuck and double down.
Hostile charges
Every time
disabled
I
on
got in trouble,
objective
the
Alpha.
BBC used to print articles about my emergency meetings when I said racist words. So then I started saying them 15 times a show. So many times that they couldn't print it anymore. You can't do the same article every fucking day, nigger. So I just kept doing it. You have to double down on it. And a lot of people are afraid to do that because of the backlash. But no matter what you try to do and say, they're just going to attack you all the time.
Speaking of mischaracterized positions, I kind of want to throw this to Nick real quick. So many people talk about this, and I don't think they give you a fair shot. So we got a lot of people watching now. By the way, guys, if you're watching on freshman, I'm going to switch over to Learning and Jackson Both over on YouTube. So come on over. I'm going to end the freshman history here in a second. Right now, this is freshman history. So Nick, a lot of people say that you are undercover dad. Have an issue with JD Vance. You're criticizing him because you're a hater, right? People come at you and say that you're doing, you know, you're trying to mess with the Republican Party, blah blah blah. Right now, I know the reasons why, right? And I make sense, but I don't think like people have given you a fair shot when you give your criticisms of Trump and his running mate JD Vance. And I want to give you credit as well because you called it April of last year that JD was going to be the vice president, and then boom, fast forward to July in the RNC, and he gets, you know, put in there. And I remember I was there, right? And the first thing he's talking about is attacking Iraq. I think it's pretty much undisputed now in the right wing and social media that damn near. So you can kind of just go over.
Enemy has nearly expended all reinforcements.
I'm kind of still through there. Just take it wherever you want. Guys, come on over to my game. That's everywhere. On Google, YouTube, whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the whole Democrat thing is concerned, it's very amusing to me. It's very amusing. I almost don't even mind it because, you know, people are fucking retarded about politics. Like, on some level, you'd like to think that we're starting to get it. People are waking up. They see what Israel's doing. And then at the same time, you have to keep the Pareto principle in mind, the 80-20 principle, which is that like 80% of the population is scum. They're just like worthless scum. Now, they're not worthless, but they're low IQ followers, whatever you want to call it. It's a 20-80 principle or an 80-20 principle. And here's what I mean by this. As far as I'm concerned, we are so through the rabbit hole. Like, I got red-pilled when I turned 18 and I was in college, 10 years ago, whatever it was. And we're at the point now where you have these basic normies, they're just discovering Israel. At the same time, I go and criticize Trump for something or another thing, and people say, yeah, but, I mean, the Democrat would have been worse, don't you think? But the Democrats would have been far worse. This is better than Kamala, wouldn't you say? And to me, this is just such like a basic mechanism of control, which is how the regime will play the right off of the left. I almost feel like it's an essay it's trite to even suggest that the right and left are the same, and yet it needs to be said over and over and over again. The Republicans, the fucking Republicans, the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. They always have been. Who brought us to Iraq? The Republicans. Who made the economy the way it is? Republicans. Well, where did NAFTA come from? Yeah, Bill Clinton signed it, but it came from the Republicans. It's like, so, you know, people like to say, oh, you know, but the Dems, but the left, but this, that, and the other. The Republicans are the same. They are virtually the same. The platform is effectively indistinguishable. They have the same donors. They go to the same parties. They're the same people. And so, you know, like Dinesh D'Souza and I debated back in June, and Dinesh said this to me. He said, you're starting to sound like a Democrat. I'm like, Democrats, Republicans, are we really still doing this thing? As far as I'm concerned, it's like there are the people that are disempowered, and then there are the people that are in power. Now, whether you or I are voting Republican or Democrat, whether we watch Fox News or MSNBC, we're still goyim. We're still stupid wage slaves. We're still a bunch of stupid, disenchanted, or I should say disenfranchised wage slaves that are eating Zog slop, watching slop on TV. And here we are arguing, it should be Biden, it should be Trump. There's continuity. Trump armed the Ukrainians first. Biden continued it. Trump gave us the vaccine. Biden mandated it. Trump started the Chinese tariffs. Biden did the CHIPS Act and continued the tariffs. Trump created the corporate tax rate. Biden kept it in place. Trump extended it when he got back in. It's all the same shit. It's always been all the same shit. So, and like I said, I feel like George Carlin saying that. I feel like an edgy midwit when I say, oh, it's all one big club and you ain't in it. Yeah, I feel like a big fucking stupid midwit when I say that. And yet it still needs to be said because you have these dummies that are like, we have to vote Republican every time forever or else the Democrats are... They're gonna what? They're gonna make a vaccine. They're gonna let in illegal aliens. Trump did the same thing. So, you know, the promise of Trump is that he was going to break us out of that. He didn't. And now we need to recognize he's just another Republican candidate and act accordingly. That was always my message.
Shit. What about JD Vance? Because a lot of people come at you and say, oh, you're just attacking him for no reason. Why, you know, what's your gripe with him? I know you've mentioned before that he's another Trumper and everything else like that. But what's your position on him? Because you're one of the few people that have been extremely skeptical of him since the beginning.
This is to me or Andrew?
No, to you, Nick.
We have
Oh, to me. Yeah, they're talking to Andrew. And you know, for me, with regard to Trump, in my opinion, it was a failure after the inauguration in 2017. Actually, after the election in 2016. Because I was a ride or die Trump guy in 16. I was a ride or die guy for Trump in 2020. But looking back retrospectively, it all came down after the election in 16. You know, and I really made this point last year during the third election that he was in. The promise of the Trump campaign originally was, it wasn't that we would be marginally better than the Democrats. Because that's what people are saying now. They say, well, you know, it's better than the alternative. Okay. But in 16, the promise was not, we're going to be better than the Democrats at the minimum. The promise in 16 is that Trump would be a Caesar-like figure that would take over the government, eliminate all corruption, and literally seize power and make the country great by force. That was the promise. People forget that. Because a lot of people weren't around back then. Maybe they're too young. Maybe they weren't on board. You know, maybe they weren't Trump supporters. But in 16, he said in his inaugural or in his announcement speech, actually in June of 2015, he said, we need a leader. We need someone who is literally going to take the country and make it great. And I loved like that language. Take the country. I alone can fix it. I will take this country and make it great. That was the kind of rhetoric. You know, he said in April in 2016, He said, "We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the siren song of globalism." In October 2016, he said Hillary Clinton is controlled by international bankers, donors, special interests. They're colluding to take over the country. Like the rhetoric, people forget how hardcore it was from the very beginning. And the promise of 16, to put it succinctly, was anti-corruption. It was that
Drain
the
the swamp.
people, well, and what's more, he said the people are not being put first because the politicians are controlled by the money. He said, "We don't have real victories. We never win. Our people are not being prioritized." And why is this? The politicians won't take action. Why? They're paralyzed by money. They're not really in control. The money is in control. He said, so the only way to fix it is if an extremely rich person from the oligarchy, without taking donor money, without the special interest, if one person could get in and kind of get in the middle and get rid of all this corruption and ignore the media, ignore the press, ignore the money, and only then could they actually take action and deliver real reform, real revolutionary change. That's the kind of shit that, like, dude, like, yes, that is what we needed.
So I have a question for you both, because I think we're going to wrap up here and we're going to have to do the rest of this another time. But I have a question for you both. Let's assume everything you've said is true. Let's assume it's a big club and we ain't in it. Let's assume that the politicians are working against the people and everyone thinks they're stupid, but they're not actually stupid. They're just working for the people they really work for, which is not you. It's the money, it's the banks, it's the globalists, it's the international interests. We understand that the Democrats and the Republicans are the same. If we understand that nobody is coming to save us, if we understand that it is extremely optimistic to put all of this monumental failure down to some degree of ineptitude, when truthfully it is a managed decline and it is very purposeful, and they're doing all of this on purpose. Let's assume that all of that is true, which is the conclusions I came to also, and the only answer I found for this was trying to implement a degree of individual exceptionalism amongst my fans, saying, look, it's all fucked. You need to get as rich as you can, as strong as you can, as charismatic as you can. You need to be uncancelable. You need to have people listen to you. You need to go out there and show that you're not afraid of them. Individual exceptionalism was the only answer I came to combating all of these things. Is there another answer? Was I wrong? What else can we be doing? What else can we be encouraging people to do? Because everything Nick has said is completely correct, and I've known it for a very long time also. If you think a political party is going to fucking turn this shit around, you're out of your mind. So what is the answer? What do we tell people at home to do? What is the solution to this problem?
Have to engage in politics. Have to engage in politics. You know, a lot of people are very down on it. People say, well, you know, we're not going to vote our way out of this. No, but if enough young people who are brilliant